357 Magnum versus 10 millimeter versus 44 Magnum. What I have today is our hard cast ammunition. I'm going to do a hard cast big game dangerous animal ballistic test. So our 357 Magnum is an Underwood 180 grain hard cast flat nose. Our 10 millimeter is a 220 grain hard cast flat nose, and our 44 Magnum is a 255 grain Keith style semi wad cutter flat nose. So these are all roughly about the same sectional density, and I'm going to run them all through my 4-inch Smith & Wesson revolvers. So our 357 Magnum is rated at 1400 feet per second. Our 10 millimeter is rated at 1200 feet per second. Our 44 Magnum is rated at 1350 feet per second. So 180 grain, 220 grain, 255 grain. So very fair test, I would say. Overall, we're using similar platforms and all of that. And to be honest, this round here, this 220 grain hard cast, is one of the reasons why I picked up a revolver and 10 millimeter. I've seen a lot of people try to test that ammo, and it doesn't really perform that well for reliability in a lot of pistols. So we're going to see what we get today. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. I got some numbers on that screen from shooting the 22 through there to make sure that the chronograph is working today. And then I'm going to do our 10% clear ballistic test. So this is our big dangerous game ballistic test. We got a lot of ballistics gel here. First up, I'm going to start with a layer of coat material. You just got your polyester and then fill and all of that. Then I'm going to do 2 of my 3 inches of clear ballistics for our pectoral muscle, but this is going to be like a big animal pectoral muscle. 6 inches of clear ballistics, and then I'm going to do a full 1/2 inch of medium density fiberboard, which is a lot more than what I normally do, into the clear ballistics. We'll see how 357 Magnum compares to 10 millimeter and how that compares to our 44 Magnum. And then I'm going to shoot at the steel. I'm going to do kind of a big dangerous game test here, where I'm going to fire very quickly at the steel in double action, and I think I'm going to back up a little bit and do single action kind of hunting scenario in single action. So well, let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our hard cast 180 grain 357 Magnum. This is rated at 1400 feet per second. I'm about 5 yards from that target. Let's see how close we get to 1400 feet per second here. $13.37. 13.52. 13.49. Hold that one. 13.57. These have a lot of recoil. 13.12. So not too bad, but definitely below rated velocity. Now our 10 millimeter is rated at 1200 feet per second. Let's see how close we get to 1200 feet per second. 220 grain. 1172. 1168. 1211. 1181. 1182. So this had actually just a tad less recoil than that 357 Magnum. Our 44 Magnum, this is rated at 1350 feet per second. Let's see what I get here. $12.34. 12.65. 12.55. 12.27. 12.40. So I think that our 44 Magnum is the most below rated velocity. However, I do think, just based on guessing, that I think this is probably the most powerful of the 3. And it certainly had the most recoil. I would say about twice as much recoil as that 10 millimeter, and maybe, almost that much more than the 357 Magnum. So a lot more felt recoil here. So let's hit our ballistics gel block with these, see how they all compare. All right, I'm going to do a single shot with each of these and then go up and take a look after each shot. So We got about 48 inches of ballistics gel there, including a ½ inch of medium density fiberboard. So this really is our big dangerous animal simulation. Let's see what we get with our 357 Magnum. Let's go take a look at that. All right, wow. We got a lot of penetration and we barely caught that. We got a ton of damage going through this first gel block. I wasn't expecting to see so much damage. It looks like our gas check, there was a gas check on the back of that bullet. It did stop right there, about 27.5 inches. So I'm a little bit worried that we're not gonna be able to catch all these bullets here because with our 357, we went pretty far. So let me go get the measuring tape real quick. So camera parallax will make this look like it's somewhere a lot different than where it is, but I'm gonna line it up directly with my eyes. So we're at 36 inches at the end of this, and then we're adding to that about 8¼ inches. So we're talking 44¼ inches of penetration. That's a lot of penetration. I don't know how that exactly relates to like a bear or something like that, but it's safe to say, you know, judging by most 357 Magnum rounds, going through only 1 MDF will penetrate to like, I don't know, 18 inches or so. Yeah, that's a lot of penetration. So let's hit this with our 10mm, see how that compares. All right, 10mm auto, 220 grain. A little bit more weight there. Let's see what this does. We'll take a look if we caught it. And no, we did not catch that. That's a lot of penetration. So let me try to find a way to catch one of these and then we'll try it again. All right, so I don't have a lot of options out here right now, but I did make kind of a high-tech fleece bullet stop. I folded a towel a whole bunch of times. I don't necessarily think that's going to stop it, but we'll give it a shot. So 10mm second attempt. See what this does. Let's go take a look. All right, so that's interesting. I see that happen from time to time where you get kind of weird results like that. Well, let me shoot it one more time with the 10mm. All right, one more time with the 10mm. See if we get a different result this time. Well, let's go take a look now. All right, so I think that last shot was kind of a fluke, but we may have caught that bullet. I'm not 100% sure. We definitely have a hole going in this towel here, and I don't see one going out the back. So I'm gonna try to feel around. I don't really feel a bullet in there, which is interesting. Maybe I do actually. Let me unravel this thing here. I think it's in there. I really think it's in there. So we went through 48 inches of ballistics gel. I'm gonna set this on the ground. I'm gonna take a look here. Unroll it. Yep, there it goes. Hit my foot. So we did catch that bullet with that fleece bullet stop. So I don't know what's going on with that. That one went to about 28.5 inches. It could have just kind of started tumbling. Sometimes we see weird results like that. But this is pretty typical for 357 where we caught it right about here. But yeah, interesting. That definitely penetrates more than our 357 Magnum. So really good there. So I would say, you know, this does pretty well. Let's hit it with our 44 Magnum now. All right, 44 Magnum. I did put that towel back on the end of those blocks there. I counted the layers as I folded, and there's 16 layers of towel. So I don't know if it'll catch the 44 Magnum. Now this does have a little bit of a semi-wad cutter nose to it, so that might actually slow it down a little bit more. Not really sure. Let's see what we get with our 44 Magnum. Let's go take a look. All right, so we caught that bullet. I trust this 100%. I've tested stuff like this in the past, and generally the 44 Magnum, because it has that little semi-wad cutter edge and the diameter is bigger, it does tend to go about this far. So what we got going on there is past the 36 inches, we're at about 8 3/4, 9 inches. I want to say it's a little closer to 9. So we're looking at 45 inches of gel, as well as going through a ½ inch of rib simulation. So honestly, overall, what we can take away from this is, other than this fluke round here, consistently we had 2 10mm rounds pass through this 48 inches of gel. We had no other ones pass through it. So considering, other than this one, we had 2 in a row of the 10mm, not in a row, but 2 that went through, and then we had none of the 357 or the 44 going through, we can say that our 10mm penetrated the most. And honestly, when we look here, the 44 and the 357 are just about spot on with the same penetration. But other than this fluke round here, our 10mm went significantly further than that and went through a huge amount of towel material here too. So the takeaway from this is, you know, a lot of people that were scoffing at 10mm in a revolver, I think I'm the one who's laughing now, because when we're looking at this, I would say our 10mm is the better load here for getting extreme penetration. That being said, in the real world, is that, you know, a few inches more. If I had the rest of that gel block here, we might see 8, 9, 10 inches more. Is that really going to make a difference on a large, dangerous animal? Probably not. Our 44 would still probably stop it the best. But compared to the 357, I would say our 10mm had a little less recoil and performed a little bit better. So it really is in order: 357, 10mm, 44, when it comes to the ability to stop a dangerous animal, in my opinion, based on, you know, just the energy, the size of the bullet, the penetration, and all of that. But what we can say is, it's very surprising that our 10mm is an excellent cartridge for penetration. You can't discount that. So I'm going to pull these all out of the block here. We'll take a look at them. Then I'm going to shoot our steel. First, I'm going to start from a little bit closer, do some more rapid fire shots, and then I'll back up a little bit. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets. Here is our 357 Magnum. We got a good amount of, you know, bullet nose deformation going on, where it flattened and chipped away just a little bit, probably from hitting that rib simulation. Our 10mm, the one that went deeper, that we actually caught, same type of thing going on here. Just a little bit of damage on that nose. And one thing I noticed, I have the 10mm that didn't penetrate very far. We did not have hardly any damage or flattening on that nose. So what that tells you is probably it just started to tumble immediately for whatever reason. That's where this one that went deeper did not. And our 44 Magnum has the most damage on that nose, hitting with the most force. So even though it's a hard cast lead, it's still going to deform just a little bit here. Got a gas check on that. Our 357 did have a gas check because I saw it in the gel block, it fell off. Our 10mm did not have any gas checks on them. So looking here, very similar overall length, because they are very similar sectional density, and that's, you know, one thing. You're scaling down the bullet and you're putting basically the same amount of mass behind the diameter. 357, 10mm, 44 Magnum. So very fair way to test this. So all of them did pretty well, and they all went pretty deep. Obviously our 10mm went a bit deeper. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, 25 yards from the target. That human silhouette is roughly the size of a big bear if it was kind of facing you, the area you don't want to shoot. So I want to fire 6 rounds of 357 and 10mm, because that's what they hold, and then 5 rounds of the 44 mag, because that's what that holds, and see if I can land these shots on target. I want to see how quickly I can do it, and I'm not going to try the commando routine. I'm going to actually slow it down to shooting as fast as I think that I can hit the target. I'm wearing this glove on my left hand because that 44 Magnum muzzle blast with ammo like that is pretty hot and always kind of burns my thumb. So first up, 357 mag. Let's see how this does for me. has a lot of recoil that wants to jump up. I definitely missed one. A lot of muzzle flip on that. Now this revolver in 10 millimeter is a little bit heavier, not by much, but it might tame that recoil a little bit for me. So I can do with our 10 millimeter here. All right, so that second shot I completely missed because I believe the moon clip bound up just a little bit and it wouldn't pull through smooth, and I yanked it through and that pulled my shot, I believe, over the target. So let me grab the 44, see how that does. I know people are gonna be like, oh, that's not running at you. That would close the distance faster and you'd be gone, but there's not much I can do. I can't rig my target to run at me. But I think 25 yards puts it far enough away that it'll kind of simulate something that's maybe even a little bit closer. If you know what I'm trying to say, like it's closer, it's bigger, so staying at 25, it doesn't make it more difficult. So let's see if I can do with our 44. That's got a lot of felt recoil. I don't know where my first shot went. I definitely missed that. So I would say accuracy wise, I basically missed one with every one of these. So I would say doing this type of drill, all of them are relatively similar. All that being said, I think honestly, if something was charging me, I'd probably rather have this, even though I can't control it super well, versus something else, because you know, I know it's hitting with a lot more power than the others. So now let me back it up, do some single action, do kind of a hunting simulation, see how these will all do for me. All right, 75 yards from the target. This is our hunting scenario. You know, I know it's not a perfect hunting scenario. I'm not, you know, dressed to hunt. I'm not in a blind somewhere, but I'm just gonna fire a single action from 75 yards at our target. See how well these all do for me. And I think that's a reasonable distance. You know, pretty much the maximum distance I think most people would shoot with a Magnum handgun like this to try to take an animal. So let's see what I can do with our 357 Magnum. I'll try to take my time on these and place these as accurately as I can. So 357 Magnum. Alright, so I'd say those are all very consistently accurate. So let's see what I can do here with our 10 millimeter auto. Alright, so that shot I missed, I actually aimed a little bit more center because I started aiming high. I made a hit and I aimed center and then I missed. So I went back to aiming kind of shoulder area and I was able to make the rest of those hits with the 10 millimeter. So I think those are dropping a little bit low, but that's to be expected with something that's 220 grains. So 255 grain 44 mag. Now this has a ton of power. This might cause me to flinch and not be as accurate, but I'll try my best here. A little bit high, I think. So I had to aim a little bit low under the target and a little bit right to make those hits. So our point of aim with the 44 Magnum is a little bit off from the sights, but our point of aim with the 10 millimeter and the 357 Magnum were right on. So what I'm going to say here, as I think all of them did pretty well, two takeaways that are standing out. The 10 millimeter and the 357 Magnum were very predictable in their recoil, very predictable in their accuracy, very predictable in what they did in the ballistics gel block. With our 44, it takes another level above the 10 millimeter and the 357 Magnum to be really good with it. So honestly, even though I said, yes, I'd rather have this than anything else if something dangerous was attacking me, on the other side of that, kind of not, because I feel like I might miss more times than I would with the others. Just that extra muzzle flip means you have a little extra time to bring it back down on target. And it's just, you could just, there's more area in that timing from here to here to misjudge your timing. And then before you're back down, this revolver's clear, before you're back down, you know, fire one shot, recoil, before you're back down on target, prematurely fire that rather than come back down. As we're in the same time frame, your 10 millimeter and your 357 only recoil this much, and you time it, and generally you're back down before you pull that trigger again. So judging from that, honestly here, it's really a wash between the 10 millimeter and the 357 mag. Now, the 10 millimeter did have that little bit of a moon clip hang up. That's kind of a failure in a way, but it's not nearly the type of failure that you would have with a semi-auto that malfunctioned with that ammo, which is pretty common with that ammo. If you're talking close range within, you know, 15 feet or so, that second shot that, you know, hung up a little bit would only be a couple inches higher because I jerked that trigger a little bit harder. But at a little more distance, it's gonna, you know, multiply that error there, and it's gonna be off target. So looking at all of these here, obviously our 44 Magnum has the most power, and it probably would do the best if you could hit your target with it. But looking at the 10 millimeter and the 357 Magnum, they're very consistent. So overall, across the board here, if I had to pick one of these that was going to be the most consistent for me, I would say our 357 Magnum. Pretty easy to control, very reliable, very consistent, reliable. I can reliably hit the target with. Not much to think about. I think our 357 Magnum did the best out of all these. But when we're talking pure penetration, you know, that 10 millimeter beat all of these. It penetrated the most, and that might account for, you know, something you need. You know, it's kind of like 9 millimeter compared to, I don't know, 45 or something. 9 millimeter will generally penetrate further than other cartridges because it's just weak enough that it doesn't deform and it just keeps going. I think we're kind of like that with our 10 millimeter. It just wants to penetrate really far. So I would say 10 millimeter 357, great cartridges here. Nothing wrong with the 44, but I wouldn't pick it. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.